Hello and welcome to another episode of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell. Today we have the amazing pleasure to have somebody who's absolutely dynamic. Just wait till I read her bio. This bio got me. Not too many people do a good bio, but Rachel did. From Chief Customer Officer to Connection Coach, Rachel Rozen transforms professional networking from icky to sticky. She's on a mission to help professionals build authentic connections, drawing from her journey of connecting with over 300 people in a year. Her coaching strategies empower professionals to turn networking challenges into lasting relationships. When not coaching, she's cheering on the New York Mets and Syracuse Orange, reading and experimenting in the kitchen. Welcome, Rachel.
Hey, Dorothy, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You're, I think, the only bio that I've completely read. Everybody that sends me their bio, it's just like either an encyclopedia or like boring. So I appreciate you. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And okay, so the New York Mets. Seriously. Well, that's good. No football in there, though?
No, I'm a basketball, baseball person. I'll watch football, but it's not my go-to sport. Yeah.
That's okay. And what's your favorite book? You said you like reading, or what's your favorite genre?
So I've actually just finished reading 1,000 books in 5 years. That was my big 5-year goal. When I read, it's generally nonfiction and fiction. Nonfiction is memoirs, business books, leadership books, self-help books. From a fiction standpoint, it's a lot of contemporary fiction, literary fiction, romance books, and I also like historical fiction is a big genre that I read as well. But my favorite book is called The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. And she wrote that book many, many years ago with her ex-husband. She's since divorced, remarried. And the book was, and I tell this to anybody that's ever in any transition in their life to do, but she wrote it as a way to be an option for you to start your year off right. So instead of having a New Year's resolution, it was where can you find joy in your life in different areas? So it's kind of an assessment of yourself of going through and what do I like doing? What do I don't like doing? Where can I get more joy in places? And there's different buckets there. I like to say it's like going to a therapist without therapy, without the therapist there, I guess. But I've gone through that book multiple times through different transitions in my life. And it's the first book that I recommend to anybody that feels like they need some sort of a transition. Just check it out and see, because when you do that assessment for yourself, you realize what are some of the things that you want to just shed and what are things that you want to start doing that you just never did before.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. I will have to get a copy of that book. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So 300 people in a year that you network with. That's insane.
Yeah.
So like one a day.
It was more than one a day because I didn't do it on the weekend. So it was all one-on-one conversations with those 300 people. And I was looking for my next job after I left my role as a chief customer officer. And so I really had to dive headfirst into networking and meeting people to learn what I wanted to do next. A lot of them I considered were informational conversations. I also picked up a lot of skills along the line from doing all those conversations. And that's kind of what sparked me to start this business, was realizing that networking is a skill set. And we're often told to just go do it. But the average person doesn't know how to be effective at it. They just figure it out as they go. But there really are skills around networking that if you just spent a little time to learn how to do them, it would make everybody better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I like the icky to sticky. I don't know about you, but on LinkedIn, sometimes you'll just get those automatic requests, just it's a pitch. It's nothing else. They don't give a shit about you. You're not a human. You're just another number. And that just really, I'm like, seriously.
I know. And it's a lot of copy and pasting, and I'm all for templates, but you need to personalize those templates. that make it a little bit easier. Like I got one from somebody the other day that said, "Oh, I see you're in Long Island. I live in Brooklyn. I don't live anywhere near Long Island. Uh, why would I talk to you if you're on Long Island? I mean, not that I wouldn't talk to you if you're on Long Island, but like you obviously didn't read my profile." And I had someone else send me a message saying, "Oh, I see that you're a fractional CRO." There's nothing that reads in my profile anywhere that I'm a chief revenue officer or ever was a chief revenue officer. Why would you even say that? It's so funny how people pull things out that don't have anything to do with my profile.
Right. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background before you got into this.
So the majority of my background is in hospitality. I spent over 20 plus years in hospitality, from restaurants, hotels, and from the tech side of things. And as I mentioned, my last role was a chief customer officer at a food tech company. And I learned a lot about relationships. And it's so funny when you think of Steve Jobs' quote of, "You can only connect the dots looking forwards, not, or looking backwards, not forwards." That was 100% me. If someone said to me 10 years ago, "Rachel, you're going to be a networking coach," I would be like, what does that even mean? But all the relationships that I built through my work, and when you're in hospitality and when you're talking to guests all the time, you have to learn how to have conversations with people and make connections. Even if you never see that person ever again, you still have to learn the art of a conversation and the art of a follow-up as well. So it's really interesting how so much that I've done really resonates with what I do today. And I would have never thought this is where I would land, but that connection piece is core to being in hospitality. And then on the tech side of things, when I was running customer success teams, how you work with your customer, it's all about the connections and the conversations and the follow up and building that relationship and making those people who are your clients feel like you are taking care of them and they know, like, and trust you. And that's the same in any networking conversation. How can you build upon that initial conversation to get to another conversation, another conversation?
Right. So what would you say has been your ickiest conversation yet? You don't have to say exactly who it was, but like the gist of the conversation.
Well, I had one person a while ago who they just wanted to try to impress me. And that's the one thing that to me is just the ickiest thing. You're not going in to impress somebody. And I'm a member of Chief, which is a women's executive organization. They tried telling me that they're a member of Chief. They're not. There's another organization I'm a part of. They told me they're a part of that organization. They were not. I was like, okay, well, who are you? Because you keep lying to me with everything that you're saying. And because I was trying to help them navigate those communities. And then I look them up like while we were on the call. I was like, I don't see you there. And then they're like, and then I caught them in their lie. And it wasn't like, that wasn't my goal, but they just couldn't get themselves out of the lie that they kept digging themselves into, which is just awful.
Wow.
I always
No.
tell people, like, just be your best authentic self. Like if you're not, then they're not the right person to talk to.
Yeah, I don't understand what people's agenda is when you lie about something like that. Especially you could, it's easy to look up
Right.
nowadays, especially. Let's just be straight and forward. I'd rather somebody just be honest with me, even if they're starting out.
Yeah.
Because I'm dealing with a filmmaker right now that they just started out, and that's the first thing they come out and said is, we're just starting out, but we'd be more than happy to take a look at whatever it is that you want to put into movie form, and my clients are just like, that was a feather in their cap, not a deterrent. So
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying there. So you went from customer service, now having your own business. So how would you say the transition has been from working for somebody else to being your own boss?
Oh, I love working for myself. I've always been, I think, had an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I started working when I was 10 years old babysitting. I don't know, nobody's going to have a 10-year-old babysit anymore, but they did back in, I guess it was in the early 90s. But that's not the case today. I think you'd get arrested if you had a 10-year-old babysitting. but I've always been a leader in doing my own thing. And in a lot of places that I worked, it just allowed most people that I worked for allowed me to just be me. But I love making my own schedule. That's a big thing. And showing up in the way that I want to show up versus in the way that the company wants me to show up as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get that. Sometimes we have a real hard problem with looking at what the company wants versus what we want. And ultimately it's their company. So they get to choose, right?
Right.
And I mean, but we're in the weeds of it on the day to day. So like, listen to us, people, listen. But that's a side rant for another day.
Yeah.
So how like what techniques do you use to help your clients then to go from icky to sticky in their approach?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that we talk about. It really depends upon the person. I do run a group coaching program that I recommend most people that want to work with me to join that, because it allows them to not just work with me, but to also see it from different vantage points from other people, because you learn so much from others. So for example, I had my group session today, and we were focusing on your elevator pitch. And I hate that word. I wish I could come up with something else, but you have to learn how to introduce yourself. You have to learn how somebody can understand who you are. And I love working with all different people because it allows them to really bounce ideas off of others that have no idea what they do. And the session went swimmingly, really, because everybody learned something from somebody else, how they could do better on their own pitch, but also understanding the words that they were saying didn't resonate with some people because they had no idea what they did. May have never heard that term before. Some people were using acronyms and realizing, oh, that acronym could mean 10 different things. So you have to be very clear, because if you're talking to somebody, they may not know. So I like to say, when you're doing an elevator pitch, you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. They should know what you're doing. They may not know everything, but they should be able to then ask you a follow-up question.
Right.
Say it to your great aunt, because also they may have no idea what you're saying. And also say it to someone in your industry, because they should be able to know to an extent, what you're saying. But the same thing as a random stranger on the street, are they going to be able to ask you a question? And I like it when people when they say it, the ultimate goal is that someone's going to say these 3 words: tell me more. Tell me more about what you're doing. Tell me more, so that you can get into it. You don't have to tell everyone your life story in the first moment, but you do want to have enough where someone's curious about you that they can ask you more questions, and then you feel comfortable talking about that as well. So that's just one example of things that we discuss. I also work with people to have great conversations, because we often don't know how to carry a conversation wherever we are. So how do we get more comfortable in those conversations? Mm-hmm. How do we also know who to talk to? What is a strategy around what your goals are, where you're showing up? I work with people sometimes that over network. And what I mean by that is they want to show up to every conference or every event, and then they do nothing with it. We can't do that. If we truly want to build relationships, you're just meeting lots of people. So there's lots of different ways that I work with people to just help them become more efficient and effective with networking.
Right. I totally love that. Do you like doing more in-person networking or online?
Me personally, I prefer online, because when I'm in person, it's much more energy draining for me. So I can only do so many in-person events in a week. So for me, my max is 2. I have 2 this week. That's my max. I could do 3, but that's really pushing it. And part of it is because it takes a lot to do all the follow-ups. And also it just takes a lot to bring my best energy to each event that I'm going to.
Wow. When you do two a week, well, then you're doing great, because I did 1 a month. I did 2 in the month of December, and I thought that was pretty good, because I had not done one in about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I I went on this rampage of attending just about every one, and there was like 5 different ones, and then, and then I burnt out, and then it was, I was not who I was then as I am now, so I wasn't outgoing. So yeah, I was shyer back then, and so it was more of an effort than anything. Now I just go in and use my bubbly personality and get to know everybody and give me your business card, and away we go.
Well, I like to say that networking isn't a one size fits all. And that's one of the things that I work with my clients with too, because if they don't like doing in-person networking, why are we forcing ourselves to do it constantly? Doesn't mean we never do it. We still do it, but let's do it in a way that feels comfortable for them. Or if someone hates virtual networking, same thing. It doesn't mean we never do it. It's just how often are we doing it and comparable to what we're doing in person. And I think a lot has changed since COVID as well for a lot of people. Because for me, like I live in Brooklyn, most of the people that I'm going to meet are in Manhattan. It takes me 30 to 45 minutes to get there. Got to add that travel time on wherever it is. So, for example, tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment. So I'm meeting someone after my doctor's appointment. I was supposed to meet 2 people, but one person just canceled on me. So I have some free time. But who knows? I might meet up with somebody else. And then I have a dinner tomorrow night. So I try to fill in the space when I can. Whereas before, because I work from home, but before COVID and I was in an office, I was just working all day. I never made the time to actually network because I would go in early in the morning, I'd leave late at night, and then eat dinner, go home, go to sleep, and repeat. It was like I didn't even give myself the opportunity to do it. So I try to help people really looking at their schedule too and say, okay, what makes sense for you? Like if you have a family and you need to be home by a certain time to be with your kids and have dinner or take them to events, then maybe let's not look at evening events. Can you break away at lunchtime? Can you go to a morning event? Where can you find the time to do it that makes sense for you? Because everybody's schedule is different.
I love that. Yeah. Don't put the pressure on, because then it's not going to be authentic when you are talking to people.
100%.
They're going to feel that. Somebody talking to them definitely is going to feel that. They're going to feel pressured, and yeah, totally get it. So what 3 things would you say you've had to overcome in yourself to get to where you're at in business today?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the biggest things that I learned was I didn't have to have an ideal customer. And that was something that was kind of, I don't say forced on me, but a lot of people that I was talking to, I was building this business, kept saying, oh, you need to have an ideal customer. And coming from the technology space, everything was about ICP, ideal customer profile. And so I was like, oh, I have to do this. And I realized about 6 months ago or so, I'm working with a coach, and he said to me, just let whoever comes to you come to you. Like, stop focusing on trying to find that ideal customer. And since then, it has literally been just like a weight lifted off my shoulders that whoever comes to me, that's who I'm going to work with. And it has been such a relief and so much easier, because networking, the through line is the same regardless of who you are as an individual. Everybody needs to learn the same skills. It doesn't really matter where you're coming from or where you're coming at it from. It's all very similar. So that was huge. Another big thing for me was from a sales perspective. I don't consider myself a sales person, like closing the deal. Like I've been in customer success for the last 6 years prior to this, or 5 years prior to this. So I was always the person that was managing the account or managing the expectations post sale. I wasn't making the sale happen. And now as a business owner, I have to do the sale. And so learning how to talk about my product, my product/service, how do I sell that? How do I get people interested? That's a big thing that I'm always working on as well, because I don't want to be that icky salesperson. I'm never going to be that. That's not me to be a used car salesman in any shape or form. And so I wanted to come off authentic and genuine as well. And someone wants to work with me because they feel like I'm going to be able to help them. And that's the relationship that I want to build with all the clients that I work with as well.
Right. I love that. It's funny as you were talking, I'm just like, oh yeah, I can identify with that because I'm not a box. Don't put me in a box. And every coach that I've attempted to work with has told me, get your niche down. Like, how hard is it? I am a storyteller. I help people share their stories in life, business, and service. How hard is that? Like,
Right.
and that's not a one size fits all.
Right. It's not. And I also have different services that I do. And I had other people saying, oh, just do one thing. And that's just not me. Like, I've never just been the person to do one thing. I've always been a multitasker. I've always had a lot going on. I am at my best when I'm juggling a lot of balls. If I just had one ball to juggle, I would fall asleep. Like, I have to be that person that is doing a lot.
Yeah.
And realizing what makes me me has also been important versus listening to what other people tell me I need to do. What works for one person doesn't work for everyone. And that's really the type of coach that I am too, is I never try to pigeonhole anybody. I really try to say, okay, well, what are you doing right now? That's your starting point. How can we make this more effective for you? But I'm never going to tell somebody you have to do it like this. I help them figure out what is the best way that works for them with the tools that I give them. So if you're toolless, obviously you can't accomplish anything. So let's learn the tools and then let's figure out how we're going to use the tools. Because, for example, someone going to hammer with the right hand or the left hand. If you're left-handed, you're not going to hammer with your right hand. So why are you being forced to do that? Let's do it in the way that makes sense for you.
I love that. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Right hand versus left hand. I love it. Okay, so what would you say, or who would you say that you're looking for right now to work with?
Yeah, so like I said, I work with all different types of people, from college students to C-suite executives, people that are starting their own business, people that are looking for their next job opportunity, or those that are currently employed but want to get promoted within their own company, or recently started a job and need to continue that networking, not just outside of work, but also inside of their company. And people forget that that's something that needs to happen. I've also worked with people who are new to a city or new to the United States or to another country, and they need to figure out how do they meet people outside of work or maybe even in professional circles in the new city that they're in. So there's lots of different reasons why someone might want to work with me. And oftentimes it's the person that does feel like networking is icky, or that they just aren't consistent at it, and how can they get better at doing it. But there's often a reason or a challenge that they have, and sometimes that challenge is also I just don't have the time to do it. But a lot of these things are stories that we tell ourselves versus true problems. So how do we reframe those stories? How do we adjust our mindset to make it be something that is doable for everyone?
100%. I think of networking as finding another friend, somebody I didn't know before. Somebody said, I saw a quote the other day, a stranger is just somebody that you haven't met yet. And I loved that when I heard that. And I'm just like, yeah, that's how I feel when I'm on LinkedIn and I'm like networking like crazy over there. Just trying to build that relationship to see how we can collaborate together possibly. So love that. Helping others. I had this mentor that said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So it's always been in the back of my mind. So
yeah, totally true. And there's I don't know how many billion people in the world,
8.
but 8 billion. Okay. So there's 8 billion people in the world. You're probably not going to meet every, person, but you never know who somebody else knows, is what I always like to say.
Yeah.
And how somebody else can help you. And we're more than our title and our job. And that's the other thing that I really try to teach people too, is who are you as a person? Because people want to get to know you, not, oh, Dorothy, you are a podcast host. Well, that's just part of you. There's so much more to you. And the more you let people in, the more likely they are to get to know you, want to work with you, also recommend you to other people for whatever it is that you need or that you're looking for.
Right. 100%. Wow. Rachel, this has been enlightening. I love what you do here.
Thank you.
Is there any last words that you have for our guests, or anything that you haven't said that you wanted to share so that people understand something?
I would just say that everybody can network. And if you're having challenges networking, you don't like doing it, reach out. More than happy to have a conversation and help you get through that, because it is something that we need as a life skill. It's not just to find business connections. It really is something that we need throughout our entire lifetime. And we often tend to, especially today, seclude ourselves. So how can we just make more connections? How can we get out there and talk to people or reconnect with people that you haven't talked to in a long time? You just never know where those connections can lead to.
100%. I just want to give a quick story because I wasn't going to share it, but it ties in so beautifully with what you just said. So I reached out to this lady on LinkedIn who has a podcast, something about Moving the Rock podcast, something like that. I forget. Her name is, I think, Karen. So anyways, I originally reached out to her to see if it would be a possibility to get on her podcast. So she introduced me to this woman named Jen. Well, I never was on Karen's podcast, but Jen introduced me to 7 other women who are now, I considered, my tribe. And for the last 5 years have basically gotten me through the worst 5 years of my life.
Wow.
Some of the most difficult, challenging times. Never let me give up on myself. Also within that, without that, I would never have found my business partner, and I would never have found some amazing close friends. Like I drive to Chicago to see these ladies. I'm here in Canada, so this is like a 7.5 hour drive for me. So networking is crucial because you never have any idea where that's going to lead to. Same with, if I would not have been networking, I would never have found Greg Bicknell, who was a 28-year Air Force veteran who, long story short, I joined his nonprofit, helped him with veterans getting the help they need for PTSD and mental health, which led to having my co-host on one of my other shows, A Journey in Boots, From Trauma to Triumph, making a fantastic relationship with my co-host there, Dr. Jay Royster, who is a mental health therapist. So it just goes to show you that networking can completely change your life. Because I like how you said, go backwards, connect the dog backwards. Because reaching out to one person landed like a snowball effect twice. And, just meeting different people, and they don't have to be in your, I know they say to network within your niche and who you're looking to serve, but you never know what you'll find outside of that either. Something that you might not have thought, but is exactly what God intended.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, you never know who somebody else knows. And people tend to say, oh, I want to talk to people in the same circles. But when you talk to people that are not in your circle, you never know where that's going to take you to as well, because they might know somebody that can connect you. And I loved your story because you just never know where one connection can lead you to. And being, in a small town in Canada, you're not necessarily in a gigantic city. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't live in a big city, I can't network. Well, that's the power of technology today. It lets you meet people from all over the world. Like you and I probably would have never have met ever if it wasn't for technology. And we were introduced through somebody else as well. Jeannie Doherty introduced us, and I met Jeannie I still haven't met her in person, but it allows us to meet people that we never thought that we would meet or have an idea to meet. But, if you're ever in New York or I'm ever in your city, then we can meet up. You never know.
Absolutely. Funny, because I was this close to the Bronx. We were in New York 2 years ago. Usually the last week of August is our family vacation. And so we got to go to New York. So I saw the Brooklyn Bridge. We didn't go over it, but we walked. Oh my gosh, New York is the city to walk, and absolutely loved it. And as far as my husband is concerned, he doesn't need to go back. But I have so many people out there that I want to go meet that maybe it will be a girls' trip. And some of my tribe will just go to New York and then go into Bronx and go into Manhattan and go everywhere.
Totally. And the summertime is good. August is a good time to be in the city because a lot of people leave. So it's not as crowded.
Really? Because it was too crowded when I was there. I hate to see what it's like if it's more crowded. I didn't see any celebrities though. I was kind of shocked at that. Then again, I didn't go looking. We stayed in Jersey and just went across the tunnel there.
Okay.
So it's not like I stayed in New York.
Okay. They're around, but in New York, they blend in with the crowd often.
Yeah. One day we'll have to go. I'll definitely take my girlfriends and we'll make a trip. Yeah. But thanks so much, Rachel, for coming on here. And where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, the best place is on LinkedIn, and also my website shows all the different resources that I have and ways to work with me. Always open for speaking engagements. And if you are in New York City, I do host small group dinners twice a month as well for entrepreneurs and executives. And I bring people together from different backgrounds, genders, roles, industries, because I really, truly believe in the diversity of networking. And when you talk to people that you wouldn't normally talk to, you never know what's going to spark from there.
Do you know Kelly Lynn Adams?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because she's the queen of networking too. And I was just
she's awesome.
When you said that, I'm like, I know she's in New York. You guys could connect.
She is. Yeah. She's been to one of my dinners before and I've gone to her networking events too.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for those of you that were listening. Thanks for those of you on the replay. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unstoppable Overcomers. We greatly appreciate you. Share with your friends. Sharing is caring. And don't forget, be kind out there. If you have a story that you would like to get in front of the masses, definitely reach out to me and we'll definitely hook you up. You could reach us at unstoppableovercomers.com. Or you could definitely catch me over on LinkedIn at Dorothy Graham Odell as well. So with that, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do. And remember, same time, same channel next week.